Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Over 50 million Americans have arthritis, making it the #1 cause of disability in the country. That means 1 in every 5 adults, 300,000 children, and countless families. My next guest is here to tell us more about an organization that leads the fight for the arthritis community. Molly Breitbach is the Associate Director, Community Development for the Arthritis Foundation. Good morning, Molly.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I know people hear about arthritis every day, probably whether it's a commercial or just someone talking about it being an ailment of theirs, but there's so much more to know about this particular disease. So let's talk about the Arthritis Foundation and what it is you do.
Okay, the mission of the Arthritis Foundation is to improve lives through leadership in the prevention, control, and cure of arthritis and related diseases. And we also just rebranded, so our new motto is "We're the champions of yes." So a lot of times when you have arthritis, you get told you can't do a lot of things. You know, when about 23 million people can't walk or stand or bend, and you know, that's a lot on a person. And so what we want to do is come up with plans to give people with arthritis the ability to say, yes, I can do it.
All right. And when we talk about people having arthritis, they face very unique barriers. You've talked about not being able to walk or stand and probably be as active as someone may want to be, but there's also the high cost of treatment, difficulty assessing medications, and then a lack of specialists that can really get down to how to treat a person so they can do the things they'd like to do.
Yeah, I would say the biggest lack of physicians is in our pediatrics, so for our juvenile arthritis. So for the whole country, we only have 200 pediatric rheumatologists.
Wow.
And it affects 300,000 children. So a lot of these families have to drive hours and hours just to get their kids treatment. And when a child has JA, they actually have to see their doctor more frequently. It affects their growth, as well as it causes eye inflammation, and children have the hardest time with it, because arthritis is an invisible disease, so you can't really see when someone has arthritis. So a lot of times for kids, it's hard to tell their friends, like, I can't run with you after the soccer ball, or I can't climb the jungle gym. And a lot of times they think they have an old people disease. So they are embarrassed to tell their friends, like, oh, I have arthritis, because people just say, it's for old people, but it actually affects kids starting as young as 6 months all the way through life, and it affects every race.
And that's why it's so important for us to have these type of conversations, because there are people that automatically think arthritis is something that the elderly deals with, but you just mentioned that a child as young as 6 months old can have arthritis. Obviously, they can't talk and give you the symptoms, so this is where it becomes important to use x-rays to actually be able to diagnose it. So how would a parent know if their child was experiencing arthritis?
Probably with how much they move, because like if they move and it hurts, and like inflammations of their elbows or their feet or their knees, that's another common way that they can tell if the child has arthritis.
Okay, and there's like 100 different types, and I'm not just saying that, you know, saying it literally, there are literally 100 types of arthritis, different types. And what are the most common ones?
I would say our most common are going to be osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and juvenile arthritis.
And we've talked about the juvenile, so what are some of those common symptoms that people can look for when we talk about dealing with arthritis?
Well, osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis are two very different beasts.
Okay.
So osteoarthritis is going to be the most common form, and that affects 27 million adults. And most common symptoms are going to be swelling in your knees, and because pretty much arthritis is just the inflammation of joints. So swelling in your joints, pain when you bend down or you're walking, those kind of movements, it's really hard to diagnose. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to reach out to doctors and talk about, you know, how are you going to communicate this with your patients, and reaching the constituents and saying, okay, if you have these symptoms, you might have arthritis, so you should go and ask your doctor questions about it.
Okay, and so some of the risk factors for developing arthritis in some particular scenarios would be excessive weight, family history, previous injury, and then there is, of course, age. But you're talking about that injury. So a lot of athletes who may have torn an ACL or something along those lines, they do have that chance of developing arthritis somewhere down the line.
Yeah, if you have a knee injury, you have a 50% chance of developing osteoarthritis.
That's something for people to keep in mind, and that's why it's so important for you guys to be able to help find a cure and help direct people to the best ways to deal with something like this. There is a way to prevent arthritis just by living a healthy lifestyle, and of course, as people hear all the time, eat healthy. So be active, eat healthy. It goes a long way.
Yeah, I would say that would be for osteoarthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is more of a genetic.
Okay.
And that affects multiple joints, and it also infects your skin, your eyes, your heart, your lungs.
Wow.
So rheumatoid arthritis actually causes 2/3 of the deaths led by arthritis.
Wow. And the interesting thing with both those types of arthritis, you've got people who miss a combined 172 million work days each year. So that means that there's some advocacy that has to go along with dealing with this. Every year, people with arthritis and the rheumatoid conditions, they give up potential income due to injury or illness. You've got 44 million outpatient visits and nearly 1 million hospitalizations. Serious stuff, for sure. So you are working to help eradicate these type of issues for individuals. So there's a congressional briefing that was held last year, and that's where a bunch of different individuals came together and spoke to lawmakers to give them a better idea of what they deal with on a daily basis. And we do have some video from a young person who has dealt with arthritis and some of the side effects that she's had to deal with due to that, and then also a physician who sees people every single day dealing with this. Let's take a look.
I'm still currently on the medication called methotrexate, which is a very common chemotherapy medication for patients suffering from arthritis. And so even today, as I am on that medication, it's been over 10 years. Now I'm 21 years old. And so being on that medication for that long, I do not know the effects that will be down the road for me when I want to have children. What will be the effects that I will battle from being on a chemotherapy medication for a majority of my life. I am on a whole range of medications from eye drops because of my scleroderma causing dry eyes, to pain medications, to stomach medications, things that will try to coat my stomach because over the years the lining of my stomach has completely been ripped apart. Even within the past year, I have had many stomach tests. I had a colonoscopy at the age of 20, which is not something that 20-year-olds typically go through because of the severe damage to my stomach. And I've been on specific medications for that. Even recently had to change my diet completely, cannot eat normally, and can barely eat at all at sometimes because of the effects of my past medication due to my arthritis.
This is a disease that affects every one of us in some way, shape, or form, and costs all this tons of dollars. So in my office, I'll see 3 groups of patients in an average day, right? So I have a wide group of patients. I see all different ages, socioeconomic background, and the types of arthritis I'll see in the office be osteoarthritis, I'll see the inflammatory arthritis we just talked about, and I'll see post-traumatic arthritis that we alluded to with the VA population and the injuries they receive. And of that group, we always will try some sort of non-operative treatment. So you got the 2 categories of mainstream and complementary medicine, we call that, right? So mainstream is going to be physical therapy, injections, medications, and then lifestyle adjustment, activity modification, or some sort of occupational retraining. All of that costs somebody money. It's going to take away from that patient's quality of life, and someone's got to pay for that, whether it's a payer, their ACO, their out-of-pocket expense deductible. How you look at it, that's costing someone a lot of dollars.
I find that very interesting because sometimes when you talk about coming up with laws and different policies, lawmakers need to be aware that people deal with this and how much it really can make a difference in their everyday lives.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And before we run out of time, Molly, we've got to talk about the Arthritis Foundation Run Walk to Milwaukee Irish Fest. Fill us in on the details.
Okay, so the event is Saturday, August 15th, and it's held at the lakefront. And the race starts at 10, and after the race, you get a free beer and free entry into Irish Fest until 3 p.m.
Okay, so run off a couple of calories and
Yeah.
then put them right back.
Exactly.
That's the Milwaukee way.
Yeah, wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. So people are actually encouraged to wear Irish-themed costumes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of like
dress
what I'm
up.
wearing, green.
Yeah, you'd fit right in.
Well, minus the skirt, right?
Yeah, maybe not the heels either.
Right. But the green is definitely the idea for sure. And then you've got the live music. You also are offering prizes to individuals who have the best costumes and things of that
Yep,
nature.
we have awards for best team, best costume, most spirit. So,
And the proceeds are going all back to the Arthritis Foundation.
yep, the Arthritis Foundation puts on the event in partnership with Irish Fest, but all the money goes back to the Arthritis Foundation.
Okay, and this is a great time to give out the website address for people to get more information on this run walk and get registered.
Yeah, so you can register at run to
Irish Fest.
Oh my gosh, run to irishfest.conterra.org.
There it is. We'll put it right there on the screen, and we've got you covered. Thank you so much for all your time, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Molly Breitbach is the Associate Director, Community Development for the Arthritis Foundation. For more details on their 2015 Run Walk to Milwaukee Irish Fest, you can log on to runtoirishfest.conterra.org. And that is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues in Milwaukee. Have a great day.